Hi again, everybody. It's your old pal, the history nerd, or as I am known south of the border, Empollón de Historia. And in this video, we're going to unbox some vintage, unworn, new old stock, 15-year-old Lucchese cowboy boots that the U.S. Postal Service deposited ever so gently upon my doorstep today. But before I unbox the boots, as you have come to expect from the old nerd here, I am going to share with you some history of the Lucchese Boot Company. Like many companies of its kind, Lucchese began with humble origins. In 1882, Salvatore Lucchese and his brother Joseph, who were sons of an Italian bootmaker, immigrated from Palermo, Italy to Galveston, Texas, where their ship landed. By the next year, in 1883, the brothers had set up a boot-making operation in San Antonio, Texas, just outside the gates of Fort Sam Houston, because who needs boots more in the 1800s than the U.S. Army? Their reputation quickly took root. The quality of their boots impressed everyone in the area, and the Lucchese Brothers Boot Company continued to grow. As the company grew, more and more of the Lucchese family members immigrated to the country as well and helped make boots. There is a record in the Lucchese Boots archives that says in 1897, you could order a pair of custom, handmade, kangaroo skin cowboy boots with a 1.5-inch heel for the grand sum of $9, which sounds like an incredibly insignificant amount today. But back in 1897, $9 then is equivalent to about $350 in 2023 dollars, which is still quite a bargain if you know the price of Lucchese boots today. In 1898, the 1st Regiment of the Texas Volunteer Cavalry participated in a 4th of July parade through downtown San Antonio. And someone, a photographer at the time with the big flash camera and the bulb, the big box camera, snapped a photo of the cavalry marching through the town. And in the background, you can see the storefront of the Lucchese Brothers boot shop. So the company kept growing. Business was good. But unfortunately, Salvatore, who was the backbone of the operation, the founder of the company, Salvatore suffered a series of strokes, and he passed away at home while playing dominoes, which doesn't sound like a terrible way to go, in 1929. But Salvatore's children, grandchildren, and family members kept the company growing. The company really came to prominence, though, in the 1940s, because in 1942, again, Lucchese had a great reputation. Bing Crosby, who was probably the most famous entertainer of that era, a movie star and singer who sold millions of albums, Bing Crosby heard about Lucchese and had a pair of custom boots made that he liked so much. He spread word throughout the Hollywood community to his fellow actors and stars and told them that they too should have boots made. So stars like Gary Cooper had Lucchese boots made. Gregory Peck had a custom pair made. Jimmy Stewart had custom boots made. Even the comedy duo of Abbott and Costello had Lucchese boots made specially for them. And as you would expect, Western stars like Gene Autry also wore Lucchese boots. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, a pair of Gene Autry Lucchese boots came up for auction and sold for $4,000. In 1943, Lucchese made a special set of 48 custom cowboy boots commemorating each of what was then the 48 states. Alaska and Hawaii were not yet states. And the boots had all of the state capitol buildings in leather on them, had the state birds, the state flowers on them, had the state flags on them. They were beautiful, beautiful boots to see. And while some of them are still in the Lucchese archive, many of them were sold off over the years. Several are in museums, and some are in the hands of private collectors where they fetched tens of thousands of dollars. So Lucchese became a legendary boot company in 1986. It moved to El Paso, Texas, where it is located today. Many U.S. presidents have worn Lucchese boots. Probably the president most associated with Lucchese is President Lyndon Johnson, who was photographed on his ranch in 1968 wearing a pair of his custom Lucchese boots. In the archives of the Lucchese Boot Company, they still have the sizing plans where they traced LBJ's foot, and they have the precise measurements of his foot in a book that is on display. Presidents Bush 41 and Bush 43 wore Lucchese boots. Ronald Reagan wore Lucchese boots, and as a matter of fact, when King Hassan of Monaco visited the White House in 1982, President Reagan's official diplomatic gift to King Hassan of Morocco was a pair of Lucchese boots that he'd had handmade for the king. Lucchese's are the official boots of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders today. And they're still making custom boots. You can order them off, you can buy them off the shelf, but you can also have custom boots made. And it's interesting to note that the largest pair of Lucchese custom boots ever made were made for the professional wrestler, the much beloved by me and millions of others, the much beloved Andre the Giant, who stood 7'4" and weighed 520 pounds. Andre the Giant's Lucchese boots were a size 26 triple E, and they are the largest custom boots Lucchese has ever made. Perhaps the most famous cowboy we have not yet mentioned also wore Lucchese boots, and of course I'm talking about the Duke himself, one of my heroes, John Wayne. I have found a photo that I am sharing with you of some of the Lucchese boots that were personally owned by John Wayne. So Lucchese, as you would expect throughout the years, has run advertising campaigns claiming credit that says John Wayne wore Lucchese's, John Wayne loved Lucchese's. They did one ad that I find especially tasteless, to be honest with you, that said, John Wayne is dead, but he's still wearing Lucchese boots. And the ad notes that John Wayne was buried, supposedly, in a pair of Lucchese boots that he wore on his movie sets. And the ad goes on to say that if you buy a pair of Lucchese boots, your boots will outlive you as well. Because Lucchese used John Wayne's name and likeness so much in connection with promoting and advertising their boots, they were sued in 2017 by John Wayne Enterprises, the company owned by the family that controls John Wayne's name, image, and likeness. And they sued Lucchese for more than $1 million in damages, claiming that Lucchese was using John Wayne's name and picture to endorse their product without permission or payment. In 2014, Lucchese started opening high-end boutiques around the country. They decided at that time that they wanted to become what's known as a lifestyle brand and cater exclusively to the wealthiest consumers around. They wanted to become a lifestyle brand like Burberry and Hermes and Gucci. And so they've opened these boutiques around the country where they not only sell their very expensive boots. You can buy Lucchese jewelry. You can buy Lucchese belts that cost hundreds of dollars. You can buy very expensive Lucchese clothing lines. They even have a $7,000 hand-tooled leather duffel bag that you can go into your neighborhood Lucchese boutique and purchase. Personally, if a good old boy like me were to go into one of those Lucchese boutique lifestyle brand boot shops and looked at boots, I would feel kind of like Julia Roberts did in Pretty Woman when she was a hooker and went in a high fashion store looking for a dress. But that retail strategy by Lucchese was a 180-degree departure from their previous strategy, which brings us to these boots. And as I tell you about that strategy, I'm going to go ahead and open these boots because it's going to take me a minute. So back in 2007, rather than focusing on the richest, wealthiest, and high-end consumer, Lucchese decided that they would try to get a share of the middle class market. So rather than just selling the very high-end Lucchese classic boots that made them famous, they came out with a line called 1883 by Lucchese. And they marketed them as entry-level premium boots. They were very nice boots, but they were marketed as being handcrafted rather than handmade like the classics are. Handcrafted means that many of the parts are done by machine or by factory, and other parts of the boot making process are still done by hand. These boots that I purchased are from that 1883 Lucchese line. At the same time they came out with 1883 in the early 2000s, they also came out with a line called Lucchese 2000, which was just very basic, not so great quality boots, and they did not last long at all. The 1883 line lasted a few years, but it too was discontinued. I think for two reasons. First of all, the high-end wealthy people who thought owning a pair of Lucchese boots was a status symbol and was a prestige symbol didn't like the fact that their Lucchese brand was being dumbed down and marketed and made available to the masses, because then it's not so exclusive. That's one reason I think that it was discontinued after a few years. I also think that the 1883 line and the 2000 line were discontinued because the folks who bought them for a less expensive price thought they were getting Lucchese classic quality for a price that was hundreds of dollars less. In other words, they thought they were buying Dom Perignon on a Budweiser budget, and that's not what they got. When you have a Budweiser budget, you're going to end up buying Budweiser, folks. But again, the 1883 boots were good quality, but they are handcrafted, not handmade. So I went snooping online and I looked to see if I could find a pair of these 1883 boots. These were made, the ones that I bought were made in 2007 and 2008 and then discontinued. There is a site on the internet called the Wayback Machine. And you can go to that site, type in any web address, and you can go back and look at what any website looked like decades ago. So I typed in Lucchese.com in the Wayback Machine and went and did some investigating and saw that these boots appeared on their website from 2007 to 2008. As I was interested in buying a pair of Lucchese boots, I started Googling around on the internet and I found a small Western wear store in the Northeast that still had a good number of new old stock 1883 Lucchese boots in their storeroom, and I bought them, and we're about to open them up and see what I got. Here's my invoice. We will open the box here. Here's the boots. These boots are called the Lucchese 1883 Buccaneer. I emailed Lucchese about these boots. Since they're 15 years old, you can't find a lot about them. So I emailed Lucchese and asked them about this boot. And they told me that when it was sold, it retailed for $347 in the year 2007. Today, that equates to $500 in 2023 dollars. And I think if you go on the Lucchese website right now and look at their Lucchese Classics, the least expensive boot that they have is about $550. And I think it's a suede cowboy boot, not a leather cowboy boot like this one. So anyway, this is the Lucchese Buccaneer. It's model number N1531, and we'll take a look at it, and I will tell you some of the reasons why, how Lucchese saved money in making these compared to their classics. First of all, you can see it has extensive embroidery on it. I have read that the embroidery on the 1883s was done by hand. It had to be done by hand, put through the embroidery machine by hand, because you can't do this just by machine. It has to be done by hand, which may be why these boots in particular only lasted about a year, because not many of the 1883s had extensive embroidery like this. If you look at it, you can kind of tell why they call it the Buccaneer, because the embroidery kind of looks like something you'd see a pirate wear. The shaft on these boots, it's a 13-inch tall shaft, which is a little taller than I like. I like an 11-inch shaft on a boot, but these are 13-inch shafts. This boot is made from calf skin. Both the lining and the outside of the boot is made with calf skin. And this is what Lucchese calls an R4 boot. R meaning it's got a roper toe, a rounded roper toe, and the fore heel in the Lucchese line is a 1.5-inch heel. This is a dress boot. There's a chart Lucchese offers on their website that tells you what's an R toe and a 4 heel, or a T toe and a 3 heel. So the R toe is a roper toe, and the 4 heel is a 1.5-inch heel. This heel is a stacked leather heel. It's not composite. This is stacked leather that's nailed together. You know what's cool? These boots are 15 years old, folks, and look at that. There ain't a scuff on the bottom of those boots. That's what's neat about buying these boots. 15 years old and never been worn nor walked in. But this is one way Lucchese saved money, and the 1883s are different than the Lucchese Classics. This is called the welt. It's the part that holds the outer sole to the inner sole. And on the Lucchese Classics, the high-end Lucchese boots that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, they have a 3/4 welt is what it's called. The outer sole is sewn to the inner sole about 3/4 of the way around. And then in this part of the boot, Lucchese is very famous for attaching the outer sole to the inner sole with lemon wood pegs that they put through the boot. It's one of their high-end distinguishing marks. The 1883 boots don't have the lemon wood pegs, obviously. It is a fully sewn welt that goes all the way around. Another way Lucchese saved money with these boots is on the inside. The inner sole of a pair of Lucchese Classic boots is full leather. It's hard leather. And you're thinking, hard leather does not sound very comfortable for the inner sole of a boot. Once you break it in, hard leather insole of the boot will conform to your feet. It will fit your feet like a glove. Once you wear a boot for a while that has a full hard leather inner sole, that will be your boot for life because it is conformed to your foot. The 1883s do not have the full hard leather inner sole because that's expensive. These have a leather-covered synthetic sole like you would get in any other boot, but it is a leather-covered sole. So that's it, folks. That's what the 15-year-old 1883 Lucchese Buccaneer boots look like. I think they're handsome boots. Just looking at them, they look like good quality boots. I mean, I paid $234 for these boots, people, with shipping and tax. They cost $347 15 years ago. That's $500 in today's dollars. And I got these boots mailed to me with tax and shipping for $234. So I guess the only thing left for me to do is to try them on and let you know how they feel. All right, folks, I got the boots on, and I got to tell you, first of all, there's nothing like that leather whiff that hits you when you first open a box of brand new boots, especially ones that have been locked up for all of 15 years. I've got the boots on, and I got to tell you, folks, they feel really good. I got the good heel pop that you're supposed to get when you put a pair of boots on for the first time. These are a little snug, but they're snug in the right places. They're snug in the places that I know they are going to stretch and loosen up. Lucchese's are known for being true to size. As a matter of fact, on the Lucchese website, there's a chart they have where you can measure your foot and determine what size shoe you wear based upon the length of your foot. I usually wear a 13D. I measured my foot according to the Lucchese chart. It was 11.5 inches. They said that I needed a 13D. So you don't have to size down a half size or a whole size like you do on some boots with Lucchese's. These feel really good. They feel great. And let me tell you, folks, if you can track down a pair of vintage Lucchese boots and pay 200 bucks for them like I did, by all means do it. Well, that's it, folks. That's my unboxing and review of these Lucchese 1883 boots that I bought. I'm happy with the purchase, and I hope to wear these boots for a long, long time. I'm sure if you look around on the internet and do some internet sleuthing like I did, you too can find some Lucchese 1883 boots in the $200 range like I did, brand new. Listen, if you liked this video or you like the other content on my channel and you want to see more of it, I need you to do 3 things for me. Give me the yay Fonzie thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then ring the bell so the next time I fire up the old YouTube gizmo, you will be the first one to know. I'm going to close this video like I close all of my videos by asking each and every one of you to please be good, be well, be happy, and goodbye, my friends. I'll see you next time.